Okay, it says I'm live. I'm going to check real quick and make sure that everything is actually where it should be. And it is. Excellent. Hey, pro tip, if you use a Bluetooth or other headphones, you don't get the feedback. You know, exactly what StreamYard keeps telling me to do. All right. So, despite everything else that went wrong this morning, I managed to start a whole minute early. All right. And that is actually not par for the course. I'm usually like 5 minutes early because I like to make sure everything's working before I start. And 3, 2, 1. Good morning, everyone. Today is 02 September 2021. And believe it or not, the news is not all bad. Do me a favor, hit a like, and if you're here during the live, please give me a comment. All right. So today's topics. Yeah. My computer is being very funny this morning. I don't like it, but oh well. Get those back up on deck so I can see what I'm doing, huh? All right. So the Kabul Fallout. I read the most fascinating story yesterday. Apparently, the Taliban feels betrayed and hurt that the U.S. Army disabled some helicopters before they took off. That these were great national assets and would be so useful for the new government. How do I put this without getting another YouTube strike while I'm already on parole? You're not the government. You never were. A little bit about the history of the Taliban that you all never heard. The Taliban was started by foreign mujahideen fighters. Now, I know everybody's going to say Iranian mercenaries. No, they may not have been anything to do with Iran. As a matter of fact, at the time, it's most likely that they were not very friendly with Iran at all. Times change. We'll come to that later. But in all probability, they were just completely independent, or at least associated with the Mujahideen, I guess I should say. The war had ended. Mujahideen was basically laying everybody off, and that's happens at the end of the war. The U.S. did it when Iraq wound down, and they're going to do it again now that Afghanistan's over. We did it after World War II. We did it after World War I. It is what it is, and it's a normal part of this kind of business. Okay, well, now they have no jobs. They went out and started their own business. They called it the Taliban, which was supposedly going to be a religious indoctrination system, a school. Okay, sure, fine. You go off and become religious school. Who cares? It's Afghanistan. It's not our problem. Blah, 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 blah. Well, the Taliban was actually the whole time their only purpose was to build up a little army that they could take over the rest of the country with. All right, that's the truth. This was it 89, 90, somewhere around there? 1989, 90, somewhere around there? Okay, sure, no problem. Sorry, guys, this seat back sucks. Anyway, they did take over the country. First thing they did was tell the Clinton administration that Afghanistan did not want anything to do with the United States any longer. Clinton made the worst possible decision, and I supported it at the time. So, guilty. I'm guilty too. I own it. He acquiesced to their demands. Okay, all right. We left Afghanistan entirely. There was a little bit of back and forth, but nothing significant. Now, something that did happen at the time, and I do remember this. Afghanistan was, and will remain the world's largest grower of poppy, and poppies become heroin, and heroin was becoming a problem. Afghanistan was making something like, I think it was $15 billion a year off their heroin industry. Clinton offered them $16.5 billion to eradicate it. Taliban accepted the offer. Okay, great. They made a big show of going into one poppy field, chasing off some workers, cutting some poppies down, and sending that to the United States. See, we're keeping to our end of the deal. Well, no, they didn't. They partially destroyed one field and did nothing more. Osama bin Laden, by the way, used that exact same video to recruit more people to his cause, blaming the United States for the destruction of the fields. Well, he wasn't really wrong. We paid Afghanistan to destroy those fields, and they didn't, but okay. And then bin Laden was able to build up his own coalition, his own little army. And you know what happens next. All right. Now the Taliban is back. They're just as thug as ever. They're just as gangsters as they ever were. They're openly committing massacres in the street. Right? They flew around, I believe it was Kabul, with a man hung from a helicopter. Right? You don't do that as part of an execution. It's just ridiculous. You do that as a sign to others. Right? This was just a propaganda moment for them. And they're right. It's great propaganda. I don't want to fuck with Afghanistan now, because they will literally hang you from a helicopter. Great messaging. We got that. We got it. We heard it loud and clear. Now, we destroyed some of those helicopters. We didn't destroy nearly all of them, right? It might be as little as 5 that were permanently disabled or partially disabled. I suspect that they were really just partially disabled. They'll be able to get the parts, probably not through Iran. More likely, they're kind of friends in Pakistan, but at a much, much greater cost and difficulty. This has made their lives a little more difficult. Good, because you're not the government of Afghanistan. You never were. You never will be. The fact that the government of Afghanistan now does not exist is one thing, but you're not it. And those are not your aircraft. You do not deserve any piece of that equipment. Literally anything. You got exactly what you deserved. And this makes my heart a little bit happier, especially in this troubled times. Having left that equipment and acquiescing to their demands that we not destroy legitimately Afghan government equipment was effectively a demand of recognition. Okay. We all know that Biden's going to give them what they've demanded. This is not a secret. He's made it publicly known. Blinken said something to the effect of the military mission has ended, the diplomatic mission has begun. Well, first of all, fuck you, Blinken. Second of all, fuck you, Joe. And third of all, no. Afghanistan does not have a legitimate government now. All right. Germany in the 1930s, late 1930s, had a more legitimate government than Afghanistan has right now. At least that terrorist army was made up of people from Germany and not from literally everywhere else on Earth. Small flag on the play. About 10% of the Taliban at the time of the forming really were Afghans. And that's a true statement. Maybe 1% of the Taliban that came into Afghanistan month before, are Afghans. Maybe 1%. The top 10% are from one country in particular. And I'm on fuck YouTube parole, so of course I can't talk about that. I can, however, talk about the next subject. Another reason to refuse to recognize Afghanistan right now is the way they're treating women is actually worse than the 90s. At least back in the 90s, you could rape a woman, you could murder a woman, you could do anything you wanted to her, as long as you did it within the scope of Islamic law, which they pretended was their law. I got a few other things to say about that, but it's going to have to wait until I'm after I'm out of fuck YouTube parole. Now there's no rules. There's literally no rules. The only rule in Afghanistan at this point is if you do something to another man's wife and he has the power to make you pay for it personally, now you've committed the crime. That's it. It's gotten to the point where people that a month ago they were asking to stay, some journalists specifically, have been forced to leave the country. Right. They've taken such a complete reversal that the people that under Islamic law they invited in and offered shelter and protection to are now the people that they're forcing to leave. That's an absolute violation of Islamic law. And I know this in particular because that was a big issue in 2001. Why wouldn't the Taliban hand over bin Laden? Well, he's a guest in our country. He's a guest in our home. Under Islamic law, we can't hand him over. Okay, well, guess what? We're going to take him. And now you're in the way. So they're violating their own laws basically day one. Oh, okay. If you cannot at least obey your own laws with regards to people who are not actually subject to your laws, then why should we give you anything? And that's the way it is. One more case study on why I hate theocracies. Uh, so, how are we going to proceed with Afghanistan in the future? Well, that's a great question. The first thing we're going to do is discontinue our diplomacy as soon as Joe Biden leaves office. Now, I'm going to check something real quick, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm getting a strange feeling. Okay. Uh, well, that sucks. Apparently, it did not update from unlisted to public. I want to apologize for everybody. I actually started a whole minute early, but the stream did not update when I changed the settings. So I'm going to back up and go over everything really, really quickly. As soon as I get all of the windows that I need back open. Praise God, Allah, or whatever you want to say, that somebody destroyed a shit ton of military equipment on the way out of Kabul, and the Taliban is literally ringing over it. The Taliban is not, I don't care what you think or say, is not a legitimate government in any way, shape, or form, and has been terrorizing Afghan women. This is something that one of my favorite writers said, don't ever do that. That writer was Niccolo Machiavelli. Don't ever do that. Once you take the state, do not mess with their women, do not mess with their money, and you should be in a lot better position. Okay. So I'm only at 16 minutes here. I fully understand if any of y'all go back to the beginning, play it at 2 times speed to try to catch up. I'm going to put that in the comments. Sorry about the caps lock, people. All right. There we go. I am really embarrassed about that. Moving on. All right, the CDC and the FDA are having some interesting situations going on now. I'm still on fuck YouTube parole for until the end of this month, the 1st of November. So I have to be very careful about how I say this. There are some interesting discussions happening at FDA that are not for public discussion, apparently, involving certain materials that they observe. Why? Well, that's a real good question. And by the way, while I'm at it, this discussion got heated enough that 2 of the senior policy writers, every agency has a policy writer of some sort, right? That's because any policy that might affect their mission, they want to have a say in, right? Hey, hold up. You want us to kick down people's doors over um, porn videos, for example, right? That's illegal. We can't do that. We can't kick people's doors down looking for porn. You're going to have to do something else here. It's a normal part of this process. Two of their top FDA's policy writers just resigned. I happen to know a little bit about the way the federal government works. You don't just resign in protest at the federal government, not as a civilian anyway. You resign because somebody forced you to resign. Hey, George, good morning. Mr. President. Wow, today has been bad on me. I didn't even get the lights on. Yeah, I'm sorry about this. Please do back up to the start and play at 2 times speed, and I will not be the least bit upset. You have a reason to be mad at me. All right. Yeah, these two policy writers quit in protest. That's a pretty big sign. Like on the play. People do quit federal employment from time to time in protest. But when they do, basically they're being told that's the door, don't let it hit you in the ass, or do what we said. And they've decided to go ahead and walk out the door. I think there's a real interesting story to be told in about 5 years over those 2 resignations, and there's more coming. That's the word coming down. Right? There's a lot more of these resignations coming in the next probably 2 weeks and petering out to about 2 months. Can't say this without nuking my own channel. The casus belli for these resignations has a lot to do with what's coming out of the White House versus what's coming out of the FDA. On a separate but related subject is the CDC. All right, I'm going to get into this one a whole lot more. 20, 25, something like that years ago, there was a federal law passed that said basically CDC couldn't investigate crimes, FBI can't investigate disease vectors unless it's a crime, right? Flag on the plate. They could cross, but when they do cross, they have to both be following just their own part of the track and then share whatever information is applicable. So a modern day version of the Dolls 89 bioterror attack, the CDC could go up into the Dolls and investigate the medical side, the disease side only. The FBI could investigate the criminal side only. They could share the information that their parallel investigations created. That's it. Right? The CDC cannot investigate the crime. The FBI cannot investigate the disease. So you got to play nice with the other kids and with your brothers and sisters. The CDC has decided that they are going to, in violation of federal law, study gun deaths anyways. There's a reason why the CDC, why this law was passed and the CDC was cut off. They've they had already studied gun deaths, and the purest bits of the information that they gave were technically true. There are around 33,000 gun deaths per year, but they did not even try to break up the gun deaths by type. Right. I'm going to go there. Suicides make up 2/3 of the deaths. I'm going to put this information in one little box by itself for the moment. Accidents, homicides, and justifiable shootings make up the other 2/3. Even within that, this 2/3 box needs to be broken down a little bit further because it's also part of another much bigger box, much bigger box. The CDC wasn't examining that whole picture. They proved that they couldn't be trusted to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And by goddamn, your tax dollars are paying for this. You have a right to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth when it's a public matter. That's what republic means, right? I know people say, we're a republic, not a democracy. No, we are actually a democracy, a rule by tens, 15,000s, and we are a republic, a res publica, a matter public. Everything that the federal government does is supposed to be part of public discourse. Now, there are some things that are not part of public discourse, and that's understandable. We don't out our foreign intelligence assets, and people who do not successfully run for the U.S. Senate. Although, technically, I guess he didn't actually name names. He just gave enough information for Iran to figure out who those people were. Or thought they figured out who those people were, but moving on. What the CDC is doing affects the public discourse, and they're lying. Straight up, I'm saying they're lying. Now, they've been lying about a lot of things for a couple of years now. Going on a couple of years now. But the point here is, and in both matters actually, they want to affect your rights and your safety based on information that is provably false. If I were to tell you that you can use fish medicine in place of the jab, and you did that, and you died as a result, I'm guilty of second-degree murder. A malicious act wherein I know that a end result is liable to be death. Right? It's no different than if I went out onto my balcony with Reno being less than a mile away, pointed the gun in that general direction, and just started pulling the trigger. It's the exact same thing. I tell you to use morning, Gulch. Please go back to the start and run at 2 times speed, and I apologize. It's my own fault today. Me telling you to use fish medicine to treat the virus is absolutely no different than me pointing a gun at Reno randomly and just pulling the trigger. And I didn't mean to shoot anybody. The court's not going to care. And they're right. That is second-degree murder. And I'm guilty. Yeah, by the way, don't do that. It's stupid. Both of those two ideas are very stupid. And the CDC wants to make that as some sort of official policy matter. I've talked about guns and suicide before, and this is going to cost me a whole lot of brownie points, and I don't care. You cannot consider suicides in the gun violence context. You have to consider it in the suicide context. Not trying to diminish the suicides themselves. It's unfortunate and it's tragic, and I feel bad for the families. I do. But you cannot combine those two concepts. It's fundamentally dishonest. Also dishonest is the way that most medical examiners treat treat the majority of suicides, which is drug overdose. They usually write it up as an accidental overdose, or increasingly common is writing it up as a illegal drug interaction. You smoke some pot, smoke some crack, smoke some meth all at the same time. Individually, they shouldn't have been an overload, but together, they just ripped your body apart. Yes, that happens. And they write it up as an accidental overdose. They don't want to deal with the families, and I don't blame them. Warren Squatch, you're not late, or at least it's not your fault. You want to go back to the start and run at 2 times speed, and you'll see at about 15 minutes, Carrie fucked up. Now the CDC wants to make these studies official public policy. Okay, well, here's another fun fact. Nowhere else in the world is this the way they study it. It's only in the US, and it's only at the CDC. There's a reason why the FBI was left in charge of that. They actually will dig into those 2/3, that one box all by itself, and say, wait a second, no, these aren't prosecutable. These, in effect, never happened. Or for our purposes, they never happened. These are the ones we need to look at. These are the ones we need to study. That's the truth. You leave the FBI in charge of medical studies, and again, every doctor in the country will end up in prison one way or the other. They will dig and dig and dig until they find a crime. That was the thinking behind the original law. We know that humans being the way they are, they have a little bit of power and they can do this thing. They're going to dig until they find what they're looking for, and then they're going to work with that. That's also how public enemy number one, FBI's 10 most wanted, list came to be. J. Edgar Hoover was told, you will hunt down Al Capone and the other mobsters, and he had to approach it with a context of what he understood the working of the world was. So President Wilson, I think it was Wilson, actually turned to him and said, this is public enemy number one. Oh, okay, I get it now. The CDC needs to be shut down on this study. Absolutely shut down on this study. If I had $1 million, I would already have filed for an injunction to block them in perpetuity, not only from conducting the study, but from collecting any records, from holding any records, to destroy any records that they currently have on the study, to destroy any records they used to obtain the records, anything, anywhere that they ever had. They would have to then, in 5 years, when they finally got past that injunction, would have to prove, no, we obtained this record on this date from this source, and see, we didn't cheat. We didn't keep all these records that we were ordered to destroy. I don't have $1 million. I actually have 2 attorneys in mind. Eric Prince out of New Jersey, I believe it is. I just like him at this point because he was really honest with me, right? He didn't sit there and blow smoke up my ass. He got right down to, this is the problem with your case. Do you have the ability to move forward? And no, I didn't. And okay, he was honest with me about it. The other one is a certain attorney out of Nevada. I don't like the man. I hate his guts, but you know what? He's really good. I mean, he is really good. He got somebody that everybody on earth knew was guilty a total lock. And ironically enough, he swears up one side and down the other that this gentleman was actually innocent of everything he was ever charged with. Okay, gonna catch up. Again, Squatch, no, you're not late today. Hey, Luke, you might want to start from the beginning and play at 2 times speed. Very fucked up. Squatch said, the FBI is why I don't join groups ever. Gee, I wonder why. Aging Gretchen Whitmire. I would get into that subject, why you don't want to trust the FBI any further than you can throw them right now. But, well, I will when November happens. Luke, welcome. And here we go. Squatch says, they are trying to designate gun ownership as a sign of mental illness. Okay, I've heard this said before. I've never seen it, anything coming down from the CDC as a policy thing. So I got to throw a flag on the play here and say, I know CDC isn't not. I know CDC is slipping cards out of their sleeve, as it were, or dealing off the bottom of the deck. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do try to do that. Hey, guys, you know what? I am mentally ill. I know this. I have never even tried to deny it. I have moderate to severe PTSD, and I have Tourette syndrome, and the two play merry hell together. I have never once drawn my weapon in a situation that later proved to be unjustifiable. In fact, to date, other than at the range, I have only drawn my weapon 3 times. I have unhooked my weapon maybe 7 times in my life. I've had 7 times where I started to wonder, is this really a thing, or do I need to slow down a little bit? I've had 3 times when I actually drew my weapon, which absolutely means, yeah, I think this is a thing. 2 of them were at home, right? Oh, I'm sorry. There were 3, so 8 total. One of them was during a live stream that turned out to be not what I thought it was. That's okay. Things happen. The other 3. Okay, well, 3 of them were at home. One of them was at work, and it was a guy who showed up at 2 in the morning. He was clearly a little bit intoxicated. But even the cops who did respond an hour later said, this guy's been drinking. And they would have cited him for drunk driving, except it had been an hour. So the breathalyzer test would have been void. They didn't even bother to breathalyze him. Yeah, he'd been drinking pretty hard. Turns out he was the owner's son-in-law. He was coming there to do something with the business that he shouldn't have been doing, whether it was stealing or using equipment illegally, off book, which is illegal, by the way, or whatever the hell it was he was there to do. He shouldn't have been there. Oh, yeah, by the way, because it was the owner's son-in-law who was an employee of the company, I got fired. I also didn't get prosecuted. All right. So, yeah. I'm mentally ill. So what? I've never even tried to hurt somebody with my firearm. And in 45 fucking years, 4.5 decades, I've only shot somebody once with pepper spray. In a situation where the police when the police finally did get there about 10 minutes after the spray, they're like, yep, that guy's going to jail. The other guy, if we find him, is going to jail. 3 of you, go on back. And I happen to be one of the 3. I was the one that sprayed. Oh, all right. Gun ownership is not a sign of mental illness. We'll lead into that a little bit. Most mentally ill people cannot put the thought together properly to be able to get a gun. That's the truth. If you're flag on the play, most mentally ill people who are so mentally ill that they cannot be trusted with a firearm can't get one anyways. They can't put it together enough to be able to get one. All right, Leo. Thank you. Alpine was asking about those last week. Yeah, okay, I can answer that. Yeah, that's Troll. And Alpine is watching from the beginning, so she's not aware of what I'm saying just yet. Give her a few more minutes, guys. I don't care what you have to do within the scope of the law, but do anything you can to stop the CDC. Now, I got a real strong feeling that a couple of the people that I do not like are going to be moving forward on this subject here within about a week and a half. So I hate to give them advertising like this. I do not like any of the 2A groups, any of them. I'm done with all of them at this point. Be watching GOA, be watching NRA, be watching 2AF or SAF, be watching all of them. One of them is going to move forward on an injunction to block this. I'm not sure who, or I'm not sure who's going to do it first, more to the point. Throw them $10. I will be. I'm just waiting to see who steps up first. Uh, Leo asked, "Did you say witching the scoop of Allah?" Uh, no, that's not even a sentence, Leo. I'm not. Closest to that I might have said was praise God, praise Allah, praise whoever you want. That was about 20-ish minutes ago. Um, oh, that's because Leo had an autocorrect Audi failure. Can autocorrect. I am so sorry. I feel bad for you right now. And no, within the scope of Islamic law, which Taliban, like Iran, pretends to obey. Yeah, I said that. They pretend to obey it. They pretend to be Muslims. Just like so many of Hitler's upper echelons pretended to be Christians and Catholics, especially. Um, so, yeah, I said that. Taliban is not as Muslim. Iran, or at least the Iranian regime, is not Muslims. Um, the Saudi government is Islamic, right? The Yemeni government, kind of on the border, right? They kind of lean a little bit off that cliff. Not even with the context of modern technology versus what they allow. I'm talking about philosophy and fundamental morals and values. All right. Um, and there's a lot of others that I could name. I'm just not going to. Right. But, toss Venezuela under that bus. Venezuela pretends to be a Catholic country. Well, okay. Scotch came out with it. I didn't tell anybody, and I'm not sure if that was meant for me or Squatch. First of all, he had another autocorrect body failure. Um, Squatch, are you excited? I think I am. Um, well, yes, I am, but I'm not sure where it's going to go. Just like I was still not sure where this channel's eventually going to go. All right. So enough of that. I got a lot to go over today. Unfortunately. Right. Make sure I get the whole thing. Good. Excellent. Moving on to the next subject is California wildfires. Oh my fucking God. Let me give you an idea. Most weekends, I actually go back to California to Papa Carey's place. 1 weekend a month, I go to the lake house. The other three, I go to the real house. The lake house was actually not that bad. The real house. We're getting smoke from the Dixie Fire as far away as Reno, right? It's not that bad, but it's bad enough. Jesus Christ, there's a fire out there somewhere, right? When I went to Reading, first of all, the highway was closed. I had to go the other way. Um, yeah, that really sucked. Second of all, and more importantly, when I was going through Reading, the smoke was so thick that I had to run with my high beams on. Oh, holy shit. That's some thick smoke. I remember growing up in the area, right? You didn't run with high beams on in the fog because it would just blind you and not do you any good at all. This smoke was thicker than I remember ever seeing any Shasta County fog. I have never seen a fog that bad. I've seen San Francisco fogs that are that bad or worse, but not there. I know. That's a very, very bad fire. And now Papa Carey's telling me something very interesting. This Dixie fire seems to be moving in very strange and interesting ways. Areas where the fire should not have been able to advance, it's made as much as 10 miles in a single day. Oh, how did it get 10 miles up this ravine when they had literally cut this ravine off? Did embers really fly that far? No. Somebody's setting these fires. I'm just going to come out and say it. Somebody is setting these fires and they're doing it to destroy property. All right, flag on the play. That's not an entirely unprecedented thing. Back in the 90s, back in the 90s, a firefighter's mom was convicted of arson for setting something like 5 fires because her son was working those fires, or he was working fires anyway, and that kept him employed. Okay, all right, that's a possibility. I don't buy it, and I don't buy it for a second, and I'm not buying it on credit or on clearance. I'm not even buying it. You can pay me to haul that off, but that's about it. Last summer, I went up through Oregon, and I did something really, really stupid and dumb, and I missed a golden opportunity. I was traveling up Highway 299, 93, Highway 93, 95, excuse me. And off to the side, we see a sheriff's deputy. That road is obviously very, very closed, right? She's got a shotgun or an AR-15. That road is very closed, at least to me it is. No problem. We did approach, and I made sure to keep my hands where she could see them. Right? I approached her. I asked her some questions. Is this road really closed? What about people on the other side? Who's allowed to pass? Blah, 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 blah. I wish I'd turned the camera on. I really do. I could have gotten some, at very least, I could have gotten some great video of a cop sitting at this intersection closing this road. Derp. Okay. But we hadn't even finished making the trip north before the first arrest was made. It was some guy way at the north end of the fire. They arrest him and the fires don't seem to go any further north. How strange is that? He says, well, no, I was just calling in the fire. No, you set that fire. And you got caught setting it finally. And turns out, very interesting detail, they were already looking for him a week earlier because they suspected this style of car with these first three letters in the plates, and a white male driver had been, well, they knew that description, had been in the area where not the last fire started, but the one before that and the one before that. So they were already looking for this guy, and here's somebody that matches all of this part of the description. And here he is right at the start of another fire. His background check turned out he was a convicted member of Antifa. He was convicted for being at a riot in Portland. His mugshot showed he was in black hoodie. What do you want? How much more do you need to know which side this guy was on? And here he is setting wildfires all the way north. I said at the start of summer that something like this was going to happen. Now, I said it at a much, much greater, grander scale, right? That we were going to see fires from mid-Texas all the way north to eventually Chicago. That didn't happen. It was a much, much smaller scale thing. I'm seriously wondering how much of the Tahoe and Dixie fires are naturally occurring. I'm not even wondering anymore. I know that they're man-made. I'm just wondering when they're going to prove who's involved. Something else related to this is that Gavin Newsom is actually facing recall, and good for him. He deserves it. Gavin thinks he's entitled to his aunt's Senate seat. No, he's not. The way he mismanaged California is criminal. And I say criminal as in he did X thing knowing what the result would be and doing it anyways. For that intended result. City of Greenville, California, town of Greenville, California, is gone. It's been wiped off the face of the earth because Gavin let those forests get overgrown. And growing up, there's this road that leads out to Papa and Mama Carrie's place. And I remember riding along in the school bus with Mom, whatever, being able to see across the wooded areas to the ridges beyond. Right? There's these beautiful ridges, and you can even see Mount Shasta at times. Depends on the time of year. Here we are driving along. I'm riding with Dad, and I look out, and I can't see past the trees. It's so overgrown, I cannot even see past the trees. That's bad. And that is the policy that no mandate dictated. That is the policy that created the Zog fire that killed 4 people. That is the policy that created the car fire that killed 4 people. That is the policy that created the campfire that killed officially only 89 people. That is the man who thinks he's entitled now not to his aunt's Senate seat anymore, but to the White House. I also remember another California governor. His name was Pete Wilson. He's dead now, in good riddance. He was the mayor of San Diego. I believe it was San Diego. On his way into the mayoral office, he promised the people of this little district, um, elderly folks, mobile homes to exclusion. He would not allow their district to be torn down and rebuilt, even though some business wanted that 50-acre area for development. He promised these people faithfully their homes were protected. He was elected. He spent like a day in office, and then he told the people, "The deal's done. You got to move." As he's leaving San Diego mayoral office, he tells the city, "See, I have a budget surplus of $3 million. I'm such a good mayor." Within a month of him leaving office, there was an incident with a little boy who drowned because it was supposedly cheaper to keep some glass in storage than it was to install it. Well, first of all, no, it's not. You got to pay that storage fee in perpetuity until it's installed, at which point the installation costs go up because labor costs went up. And second of all, the family sued the city. They got a judgment not only for the $3 million that he supposedly saved, but they let the city keep the money on the condition that they install that glass within, I think it was 6 months. The city did, at twice the cost of at $6 million, rather than the $3 million he supposedly saved. He wrote his credentials as a San Diego mayor into the governor's office. It's about 10 years later, but that's okay. As he left office as the governor of California, he bragged about the $16 million, was it billion? I can't remember, budget surplus that he was leaving behind. Next man in line was Gray Davis. Now, I remember some things about Gray Davis. He will always have a special place in my heart, even though Papa Kerry doesn't like him too much. Gray Davis is a Democrat. He was a Democratic governor. And I'm telling y'all, I voted for him twice, and I voted against him on his recall, which would come a little bit later on. See, as Pete Wilson was leaving office, this new thing about energy deregulation had just come online. Now, the utility companies could charge whatever they wanted, but they promised they'd keep the prices down. Well, yeah, it didn't. California energy producers shut down dozens of plants because they cost money and would buy it from out of state, mostly from Texas. That ran the prices up through the roof to the point where California started having rolling blackouts, all of which were blamed on the guy who inherited the problem, Gray Davis. Gray did whatever he could to keep those lights on. Hey, guess what? That $16 million, billion surplus that Pete Wilson supposedly left behind, that fast it was gone. Not only was it gone, but another $16 million to keep those lights on as well. That led to Gray Davis's recall, which, by the way, I voted no on. One moment, folks. And led to Arnold Schwarzenegger's election as governor. Okay, I'm going to catch up with the chat, but I'm going to cheat and go through StreamYard. Because guess what? I can still see what's going on here. Yes, Squatch, I would make a good straight man. Okay. Leo, I'm boring, staid, uh, um, punchline. Just watch Abbott and Costello. I'm, I'm Abbott and he's Costello. Costello was the one that would deliver the punchline. They were good. Okay. Squatch, I have no idea what um any squad is about, so obviously I missed something. Okay. So now that I am back up to speed. All right. Comment was made about how the fires are being handled, how the fires are being fought. And it's a true enough statement. And I get this from some of the firefighters that I know from the Reading area. Dixie Fire specifically. There was a point where it was at containment, or at least mostly contained. They're going in for what they think will be a mortal blow for the fire, and actually put it out. Apparently, it was a firebomber mission, and something happened, and they called off the airstrike. That night, fire exploded back out of control, and that's when it grew basically twice in one night. Right. First of all, that part happened. I I trust my firefighter buddy. He's telling me that's what happened, and first of all, he was one of the crews that would have been fighting that fire, but for the fact that he just can't keep up with those 18-year-olds anymore. Neither can I. Um, so he still knows almost everybody on that crew, except for the last couple of years of new hires. Maybe he might know most of them too. That's the way that part went down. Um, they could have killed this fire that night, they think. But I have my story, I'm sticking to it. Flag on the play. PG&E has apparently been accused of being the reason that that strike did not happen. I don't know. And I'm not really buying that part of the story because PG&E would have kept the fire command informed of what they're doing. I'm just not buying that story. Um, I acknowledge they might be the truth. I don't believe it. You're going to have to prove that one to me. Whatever it is that did happen that night, I also believe that whoever is setting this fire very deliberately um, was anticipating that the fire would die that night and set a new fire. It is that simple. Um, okay, Scotch, um, you missed something very interesting in the chat. I'll see if I can bring you up to speed on that later. Um, yes, I know that the firefighters may have made a mistake, a big one. That happens, right? They missed a golden opportunity because something came up that they thought they didn't have control over. Maybe they did. It is unfortunate. My friend, the ex-firefighter, is now a diesel or general mechanic, I don't remember which, up in the Chester area. One of his one of his contracts is servicing fire equipment because he knows the fire equipment upside down, inside out. He helped make some of the modifications to one of the fire engines when it was brand new back in 2003, 2, 3, somewhere in that range. That's how he got into the mechanic side. He couldn't keep up with these 18-year-olds anymore. Okay, well, I know the equipment. I'll go get my diesel mechanic's license. I'll keep working for the fire department that way. And you know what? Good for you. That's how close he is to that fire, to those firefighters. Even when he left the fire department, he still worked for the fire department as a contractor now. So yes, I believe his story about the air attack being called off. I still have my story, and I'm sticking to it. And especially as it relates to the growth up towards the northeast direction that eventually hit Greenville. I don't know that these people, if you want to call them that, intended for lives to be lost. I can't prove it, but I know they knew it was a danger. Okay, California fire issues are a good example of why federalizing local management of understory burn control is bad. You cannot treat California the same way you do Piedmont in Georgia. That would be a whole video in and of itself, Squatch, and I'm going to give a very, very short answer. No, you can't treat it the same way. You can do the understory burn. You have to do it much more carefully than you do, I guess, Piedmont in Georgia, or the Great Plains, or a million other places where circumstances are a little bit different. And they didn't do it that way. They did it a different way that doesn't work. I'm sorry, 2 + 2 and 2 × 2 might be the same answer, but they are 2 very different methods. And sometimes 2 × 2 is not the same as 2 + 2. It's as simple as that. 3 × 2 and 3 + 3 are not always the same thing. Might have the same end result, and sometimes you might not. I don't know this Piedmont in Georgia place. I do know that clearing out the underbrush, undergrowth, would have cleared away the fire dangers. Gone completely. No, not quite gone completely. But it would have been infinitely more manageable. Dixie Fire, you would have never heard of it. It would have died at about 10 acres tops. Instead, the feds just burn out whole counties at a time rather than setting clear and distinctive fire backstops that it cannot jump. Flag on the play. They did set backstops for some of the fires. I want to say the Yosemite fire from 3 years ago, or something like that. They set clear and distinctive backstops, but the fire jumped those backstops and got out of control again. Yeah. Even when they do it right, the feds can fuck up electric. Worse still is when you do it that way, you've got to go against the wind. Pick the area most windward, burn off that area, clear that area. Move to the next area windward, work that area down and down, rather than to the lee, which the wind itself will push that fire along. I must be excited today because it's 09:15, hour 15 minutes, and I still am not even through discussing what the topics will be. Either way, Gavin's mishandling of the forestry matters is the reason why half of fucking California is on fire now, including the Tahoe fire, which is not nearly as big as Dixie fire. Tahoe is getting international press. Dixie is not. Tells you where some other priorities lay. Gavin is just the Democratic version of Pete Wilson, and I have literally accused Pete Wilson of Enronian politics. You know, Enron Energy Company, the one that tried to hide all of their liabilities as assets, bankrupted the company. That Enron, yeah. Gavin's doing the exact same thing for the other team. He now thinks that he's entitled to the White House. Let me put this very bluntly. If he's even allowed to look at the White House from the street, we are all damned. And that is, it really is as simple as that. I've said before that I believe that the Democratic Party is completely controlled from Tehran. I'm not backing down from that claim. And Gavin is the sort of person who knows it and is perfectly okay with it. I don't know that he was involved in any of the really nasty ways that Tehran came to be in charge, but he knows and he's okay with it. That wasn't me. I didn't do those things. And now it's done. I might as well take advantage of it. I might as well take the money. And he's happy with it. He's okay. Kamala, I know. Kamala, I know, is one of the ones that is the reason why Tehran controls the DNC. All right? I know this. I don't know if she's okay with it or not, if she sleeps well at night or not. I don't care. She took advantage of those business opportunities that resulted in Seth Rich being found on a park bench. And I believe Seth Rich found out what was going on, could not live with himself, and ended his problem. And for reasons known only to him, he decided not to make outing everybody else part of the deal, part of his solution. But anyway, Gavin Newsom, he's even allowed to look at the White House from the street. He will destroy the the whole world. I've said before that I believe that Iran is working towards the day where they will destroy humanity, literally destroy humanity. I've been mocked for this. Oh my God, you're worrying about something that'll happen in 10. Oh my God, let's worry about something that'll happen in 10 billion years. Blah, da, 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 shut the fuck up. What are you doing here? That was pretty close to an actual comment on that video back when it was still on Papa Hotel. Um, well, yeah, first of all, it's only 1 billion years. And second of all, that kind of thinking is the reason why it's going to happen. Oh, it's so far away. We don't need to worry about that. Yeah, well, so was a lot of other problems that collapsed societies. Gavin Newsom cannot be allowed to be president of the United States. He cannot even be allowed to be in the Senate. He is now facing a recall, and we already know that some very interesting things are going on. This does not violate YouTube policy, so I can say it. Man was caught sleeping in a car with drugs and a loaded gun. Convicted felon, by the way. And with something like 2,000 recall ballots in his car. Oh my. Now, it would be easy to chalk this up as a basic mail theft case, excuse me. And maybe that really was all it was. He just happened to steal 2,000 ballots, all of which appear to have been yes on recall votes. Just randomly, just by coincidence, they were all yeses, or at least 80% of them were yeses. Okay, all right, sure. Was he working at the direction of a higher power? Well, yes. Can I prove who that higher power was? No. I cannot begin to prove who was pulling his strings. But there's no way this jerk off, uh, third time loser, living in his car, pulled this off entirely by himself. There's no way that happened. If no mandate survives this recall, he's going, and he's already done it once by cheating. And I'm not even, that's not a disputed matter. That's the reason why this recall is going through now. If he survives this one, he is going to think that he has some sort of mandate from heaven, finally, to get to the White House. That cannot be allowed to happen. We have to fight. And on that note, I gave $1,000 to the recall Newsom campaign. Yeah, I did that. Okay. I don't even remember what it was. All I know is Papa Kerry knew who to give the money to, transferred the money to him, and he took care of it, I think, 2 days later. Squatch said, we burn constantly, literally every day. Georgia burns thousands of acres to control burns. There's also volunteer burn groups. That's the way you do it, small pieces at a time. It's funny how convictions depend on what votes they find these people with. Ironically enough, in this case, no. This guy is being prosecuted, convicted. Okay, maybe not. But it appears that 80% of these ballots that he stole were yes on recall. That's the way it is. Another channel that I follow, Let's Talk About It, Will Johnson, used to live in California, Bay Area. It's not a very Bay Area, but okay. And this is one of his big harping points, is just how awful Gavin really is. Well, let me tell you how much more awful he is than you think. And I kind of hope Will sees this someday. I saw the writing on the wall with Newsom way back in 2002. Seaman Carey, Coast Guard reservist, is called up for active duty in preparation for Iraqi freedom. I show up, I report, I get a collateral duty that takes me into San Francisco, at Coast Guard Group San Francisco is what it was at the time. I show up, I get a collateral duty that takes me into the San Francisco once a week. Okay, well, I'll take a bus over, no big deal. Right on the bus one day, and I see this fish wrap talking about how the new mayor, the re-elected mayor, some guy, I think I've heard this name, Newsom, has been denied his mandate. That's where his nickname comes from. No mandate. Oh, I'm reading this, and it's some sort of opposition group crowing about how they denied him his mandate, and thinking this is a name I need to keep an eye on. Didn't think much more about it for a couple of years. Excuse me, for about 6 months. About 6 months later, the mayor of San Francisco, oh, that Newsom guy, that's right, ordered the county clerk to start issuing same-sex marriage certificates. That's illegal, and he got away with it. And that was really the start of everything we're dealing with now. Right down to Antifa smashing out and burning that limo and setting Seattle ablaze last year. Yeah, the Jazz. This was the first little snowball that's become what we're dealing with now. Now put that on a global scale and see what happens. Oh. Okay, Squatch has made a very important point. Fucking with the mail is a felony. It is a federal offense, which means that a lower standard of evidence for conviction is required. That's the truth. Federal law, the standards of evidence are lower than the states. But people here busted stealing mail-in ballots. They got fined, that's all. Yeah. By the way, if they were being prosecuted as election tampering, which is also what it is, they'd still just get fined if they were on the right side. No, fuck that. If the DAs were honest and not in Soros's pockets, they'd be prosecuted for election tampering, which is ballot stuffing, and actually be in prison now. Now, not on the list for today of subjects is something it's important to me. There has been a lot of talk about a particular very old family in Europe that's been involved in banking. I might be endangering the channel by saying this. It's the Rothschild family. I know there's a lot of hate and malcontent towards the family. I know that people say they're the globalists and they're evil and bad and horrible and awful human beings. Um, globalists hate Jews. They hate all Jews, big J or little, religious or ethnic. They hate Jews. That's what the Holocaust was literally about. Removing Jews in any way, shape, or form from the face of the earth. You know what? If Himmler had actually just done what they wanted, he would have been a success for them. He didn't. He fucked around. He played games. He turned Auschwitz into a slave labor camp. Was it Auschwitz or Birkenau? Whatever. I don't care. Oh, no. Birkenau. Sobibor. You know what? I don't care. Doesn't matter. Himmler fucked up their plan. I would say good for him, except he did it for his own reasons. Be that as it is, thinking that a Jew can be part of the globalists is like thinking that I could be an Iranian shill. On the play, I know that there are bad people in every community you can name, right? Seamstresses. I know that there's corrupt and dishonest and thieving seamstresses out there. I don't happen to know any personally. I know they exist. Cops, politicians, blue-haired little old ladies. There are bad blue-haired little old ladies. Doesn't matter what kind of community or culture or subculture you put together, they're there. And there's bad apples in that lot. But some apples definitely belong in one bin and don't belong anywhere near another. That's going to cost me a lot of brownie points and a lot of love and appreciation and probably a couple follows. I don't care. I gotta tell you guys the truth. Don't put Jews anywhere near globalists. Globalists want them all dead. Not broken, not imprisoned, not slave labor, just dead. And that's another reason why I'm happy to not be a globalist. Squatch, I met a lot of bad little old grandmothers. Okay, we are at 1 hour, 31 minutes, and I can hear them starting down in the processing room. So, don't ever kick dogs. Only Cobra Commanders that mean. Right, where was I? I don't know if this is going to take me all the way out. There's a lot of ringing and gnashing of teeth. Ringing and gnashing of teeth. Anyway, whatever. About evictions they're coming up, right? Right on the play. A year and a half ago when this eviction moratorium thing started. First of all, it was still 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Where are we now? Oh, that was the promise made. The assumption I made was 2 months. Okay. People were losing their jobs, some of them permanently. Okay, that's a bad thing. So the eviction moratorium was put in place as a stopgap measure to prevent people from being evicted during the middle of a crisis. It didn't in 100 years occur to me that somebody could actually manipulate that. Caught me completely off guard. Well, now, as of yesterday, the moratorium is over, and that's it. If you are eligible for eviction, you are being evicted. You had a year and a half to prepare for this. You had a year and a half to pay rent. You had a year and a half to address these problems. And you chose to do something else instead. Worse still, the a lot of the landlords are going through foreclosure. Part of the road that leads me to become mandatory carry is being evicted from my apartment back in Sacramento. Facts of the case are, I've been living there for about 15 years now. Same apartment, new landlord. He took over about 2 years earlier at this point. This is, I think, late August, early September. Literally standing there watching him show a new tenant through one of the apartments, thinking, oh, okay, we're going to have a new tenant. Well, I hope she's a good person. I hope she's cool. I hope a lot of things that don't matter now. And then 2 weeks later, I get a knock at the door. It's the bank. They're evicting me because they're foreclosing on the building. Now, I tried to fight it. It was a complete disaster. I managed to stretch it out for 3 months. September, October, November, December. Yeah. Late August, early September. I managed to stretch it out to 3 months. 2 weeks, I think, before Christmas is when the judge ordered the eviction to move forward without ever actually hearing the case. Her mind was made up before I walked in there. She already knew what her decision was. That's okay. It is what it is. And now a lot of people are going to be evicted not because they failed to pay rent, but because their landlords failed to pay the mortgage because they failed to pay the rent. The next time we go through this process, I think we really need to stop and think about, what are we doing? How are we going to do it? And how are we going to keep this thing from becoming a complete and total shit show? You had absolutely no reason to cry about being evicted now. You had a year and a half to be ready. You chose not to. Your landlords have not been paying their mortgage for a year and a half now. Congratulations. And please understand me when I say this. Your landlords did not choose to not pay their mortgage, and now you're getting evicted. If that had been the case, you'd have been evicted 6 months ago. The banks are exempt from those laws. That is not what's been protecting you. The fact of the matter is, your landlord must have made some sort of deal to hold off on your eviction for you to be able to stay this long. Congratulations. Bravo. I hope you bought a houseboat. Trailer boat houseboat at that. Leo's asking if this will become another 2000 real estate market crash. Oh, no. I can honestly say that I am not a real estate investor or analyst, so I can honestly not answer that question adequately. I would defer to somebody who's a little bit more knowledgeable on that subject. It's possible. And if he's asking whether my eviction was related to that, yes, it was at exactly the same time. Leo, I need to advise you, the chat is in the stream, so people can see it later, right? They may have to pause it for a second, but they can see it later. Also, I can see it on Streamlabs, the StreamYard, rather. Okay, Squatch asks, I'm wondering if there's going to be a property crash soonish. I was prepping to buy 10 acres right before COVID. I remember you talking about that. Lockdown killed the deal. Now that 10 acres is twice what I originally offered. Oh, I am so sorry, bro. Um, I don't know. If that property is still up for sale, make an offer on it based on the pre-lockdown price and remind them that, you didn't get any buyers when you refused my offer before, when you backed out of my offer before. Here I am coming back with the exact same offer. Take it or leave it. I am protected. My dirt is paid in cash. I have to pay property taxes. That's it. Papa Carey is protected. He owes a little bit of money on his on the main house. Nothing on the lake house. Um, uh, Nothing on the lake house at all except property taxes. Between me and my brother and our sisters, we could keep the main house afloat. So he's in great shape. Um, I'm sorry, Leo. It's still there forever. It says message retracted on the stream, but guess what? You just have to back up 15 seconds and then maybe play at half speed, and you can still see it. Um, so if this is your idea of trolling, it's not the best plan. You might want to rethink the plan. All right, moving on. Okay, I got 20 minutes. I'm going to take about 5 minutes to talk about. Coming very soon is a Teespring store for mandatory carry. Now, I'm kind of boomering my way through this process to figure out what the hell I need to do, but here in a couple days, it will launch. Um, I'm actually doing this to get shirts for me. I could go through 100 other sources and get the exact same thing. Um, yeah, sure. If you choose to order one, great. If you choose not to, understood. Um, for right now, it's just going to be a short sleeve t-shirt, a long sleeve t-shirt, a sweatshirt, and a hooded sweatshirt, and that's it. Just some shirts. I tried setting it up a couple of days ago, and something went wrong, and everything disappeared. So I don't know what's going on with that. It was I even saw the preview. It looks good. Let's move forward. And what the hell happened? I don't know. After this live stream, I have to make a phone call, a very, very important phone call that hopefully will have very similar effects. Wish me luck, guys. Um, oh, excuse me. All right, I'm gonna open up questions. You know, Leo, you troll me pretty good as far as that goes. How about you try asking a question for once? And not my music. You asked that last time. See, Carrie remembers these things. And to fill up a little bit of time, I'm going to go over my favorite guns list. AR-15, currently for the 5.56 chambering. I know that's not going to last forever. I figure maybe about 10 more years. What happens after that, I don't know. I'm hearing a couple different things. 6.5 is the big one I'm hearing. The 300, and apparently the 300 is a family of 3 different calibers. Maybe it's going to be that. Maybe it's going to be something else entirely that I've never even heard of. I have no idea. But for right now, 5.56 is still very good. Next in line is the Glock 22. That's what I carry myself. After that is the Glock 27. That's what Fixed Bayonets carries. Oh, and Angel now has her own. The 22 and the Glock 27, excuse me, have one advantage that the 17 and 26 do not have. You can convert a 40 cal to a 9mm. You cannot convert a 9mm to a 40 cal. It doesn't work that way. The next in line is a gun that doesn't even exist just yet. It exists, but damn me if I can find them for sale. This is the Cry Precision 612. It's the Vantage Arms 612 now. If it's out there, let me know. I really want to get one. After that is the SKS. No, I'm not even joking. The Russian designed 7.6239 SKS. I have one. Papa Carey has one. Both of my brothers had one. My older brother passed away earlier this year, so he doesn't have his anymore. I don't know what's become of his gun. I know my other brother went through the effects because he doesn't have any children. So I don't know what's become of it yet. And after that, I have a new, interesting out there favorite, the Dolnier. Now, it's long since no longer in production, but the Dolnier is the one that you might know as the Apache. Folds up into a pair of brass knuckles as a basically a pen knife that folds along the side, and the cylinder looks like something stolen off of a pepper box. Yeah, that's the one. That would have made an incredible self-defense weapon even today if they were still manufacturing a modernized version, which is something me and Fix have been talking about. Luke is telling me get my hands on a PSI 5.4. I or no? PSL 5.4. Never heard of it. I'll check it out. Russian Freedom Cedar. Scotch talks about having a Russian Freedom Cedar, and how the ammo ban is a problem for him. Squatch, I got good news for you there. It's a fake ban, right? He's banned. Biden has banned the importation of Russian ammo for 1 year. Well, we have well over a year's supply still in the chain. It's coming from Russia mostly to the United States, but it's not here yet. Um, we actually do have over a year's supply stockpiled. It's just going to go through like 8 months, maybe between between the stockpile we already have and what's still coming. We're going to go through it in about 8 months because of panic buying, and that's the truth. I'm guilty of it myself. I did not buy any 7.62. I bought 9mm when it's starting to go away, and the prices were going up. I fell for the panic buy myself. Oops, no better. But for this fake ban, there wouldn't be a problem. That would not even begin to be a problem. And it was just purely pandering to his gun control base. I'm not even sure why they fell for it. But apparently they have hook, line, and sinker. They think he walks on water because he bans the import of Russian ammo. People fall for anything. Oh, yes, reloading may become a little bit of a thing. And yes, I believe you, it's a pain in the ass, but. And also, it's being challenged in court. Most people did not know that. Hell, I didn't know that until the day before yesterday. There is a court challenge to the ammo ban. Okay, did I miss anything? A few small things. I covered that. No. Okay. We're at about 10 minutes till. So there's my list. I'm actually really excited. Me and Fix are going to be working on the first of the modern Dolnier pistols. And what we decided to do is to build it up in a 10mm and 9mm uh, uh, self-contained cartridge configuration. That's the thing you people understand as a bullet. Yeah, the metal shell casing and the primer and the powder and the shot all together. That's what we're going to be doing. It's a 6-shot, I think. It is going to be rifled, and it's going to be a quick change cylinder, which means a quick change magazine design. That'll give it the ability to fire 9mm, 10mm, and 40 cal. And last but certainly not least, is the third option, and I will have to ask the boomer what she was thinking, but we're going to leave it with the ability to fire black powder as well. It basically a cylinder just for black powder. If I understand correctly, her thought was to leave it smooth bore. I'm content to leave it like that. She's the one with the access to the equipment, not me. But that's where the prototype will come from. We're also going to get rid of the knife. So it's just going to be the brass knuckles or the gun. I know one of the tripping hazards, this project, will be the safety. This is something Papa Carey mentioned. This is something Fix mentioned. And ironically enough, Angel thought of the solution is somehow designed the trigger mechanism, which does not, the Dolnay didn't have a trigger guard on it. Okay. So she said, well, what about making it so that it can't fire when the trigger is up? Oh, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. We're not doing any kind of funding for that project. What we're doing is just the drawings and the original prototype. And we're looking for somebody with engineering experience, knowledge, to do the engineering drawings, the CAD drawings, get it started. All right. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. 9017 is coming. Joe has made sure of it. As assuredly as Bill Clinton made sure that 9/11 could happen in order to embarrass the new administration, Joe has made sure that 9017 will happen this time. So keep your head on a swivel, keep a gun on your hip, and keep calm and mandatory carry on.